I'll just share it on your page when the lightning comes through for that because I want your women to see it as well.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Bringing in the truth juice. Share on your timeline. Yes. Public. Yes. Go live. All right. We're going live. We're going live. Yes. Hello and welcome, everybody. We are here today, live on the Facebook land, and it's really, really exciting to be here. The heat is here, the fire is here, and I want to start off with sharing my gratitude for this beautiful woman, Erin. I remember when I first moved to Harvey Bay, and I was like, "Yo, where's the women at that are doing the womb work?" And I remember your event popped up online. I was like searching through Harvey Bay community group, and then your womb activation. I felt it in the shamanic. I was like, "Oh, actually, I feel this woman." And I remember going to your event, and we connected there through the lineage that you are connected to. And then from there, we've since journeyed in the Awakened Woman, the High End Mastermind for the past year. And so we've really been journeying in all sorts of different places and spaces. And within this, we've really felt drawn to come here live today because there's a lot on our hearts. There's a lot on as Erin was beautifully saying, she's like, oh, it's boiling, it's coming up, it's moving through your womb, it's moving through us, and it's like on the tip of our tongue. And we just feel like when we've been going online lately with all the noise, we're seeing a lot of fluff. And we really want to come through today with our truth and with what's on our hearts and what's on our pussy and what's alive, and to really let that juice flow from our base up, to really turn ourselves on in this transmission with our intention to turn all of you sisters on. So if you're joining us live, I can't see the comments right now, but if you're joining us live, please comment below that you're here, say hello. We would love to know who's joining in with us in this live transmission. If you catch this replay, hashtag replay, let us know what comes alive for you. If something's being activated inside of you, just breathe into that, yeah? Because there's going to be a lot of heat coming through. Erin was voice noting me this morning. She's like, yo, the fire's here. I'm like, cool, bring it, sis. Like, bring it. So if something's coming alive, really feel into your body of, okay, what's here for me? What can I access here? What area in my body can I set myself free to experience more pleasure, to experience more of my rapture, to experience more of my life, more of my medicine. Yeah, so I really just want to presence that. So thank you, Erin, for saying yes, for being here live, and for bringing through the juice.
Such an honor, babe. And it's never by mistake that these opportunities arrive. Spending so much time in the underground over the summer and being offline and really allowing my own truth to bubble and to tangibly see what is here and what my truth is in that, and how am I actually standing in that as a feminine leader? How am I showing up in the truth of that so that women don't feel like what's going on in their internal world doesn't have value and doesn't have the space to be heard. So when we come into these places and spaces, and before we get really deep, there's something that I just want to speak into about truth. There's your truth, there's my truth, there's the truth, there's the collective truth. So when we speak into truth, it may not be your current truth. It may not be how you presently feel. And that's why we're here. We're here to illuminate and to educate and to share what it feels like to speak into your truth, to sometimes feel the fear, as I have been feeling in the last couple of days in speaking into my truth, and leaning into that edge in the knowing that this is so much greater than me. And this isn't about me or my ego or how bruised I feel because of others' projections on me. This is actually about setting the truth free.
I love that. And I remember we were chatting on a call and I was, speaking some fire into all the projections that I was feeling that were being put onto me. And I think what can happen is when you're really stepping up and you're embodying that queen energy, that queen archetype of this is my vision and I'm the doula, I'm the creator of my life. And in order to be in devotion to my baby, I mean, you're a mother, you've got your human babes and you've got your baby business. And it's like, in order to be in devotion to that, it's really having those boundaries and it's really speaking what is on your heart. It's moving your body into the directions that your business is asking of you. And I feel like when that happens sometimes in these spaces, we can feel activated from another woman claiming her throne or putting on her crown. It's like, oh, there's a part of me that's still being the people pleaser. Oh, there's the part of me that's still, not really knowing what the fuck I want. Like, I know that's been my journey. It's like, actually, what do I want?
Mm,
We
mm,
can't have clear boundaries if we don't know what we want or if we can't see the clear vision or what we're here to do long term, right?
mm.
I know we were speaking into that as well. Erin and I have been having lots of chats lately, and there's just been a lot around sacred sexuality and that journey and just how deep that is. It's not some fluffy love and light journey of I'm coming home to myself and I'm feeling myself and I love myself. Like
It definitely gets to be that in time,
yeah,
but it's definitely not where it begins.
no. And
Mm,
do you feel like speaking into that, like your journey with that, like your journey with the dark femme? Like I know that the dark feminine's really alive, and yeah, like do you feel like speaking into that?
yeah, absolutely. Our greatest light is in our darkness. That's where we find the gold of our soul.
Mm.
And for me, sexuality came in quite early in my life in ways that uh, my soul obviously chose and my human self had no idea. And there are so many of us that have experienced trauma in our younger years that have then formed our relationship with sexuality, our relationship with the opposite sex, the relationship with the same sex, the relationship with ourselves. And how in this journey we get to peel back all the layers of what we've been told and what we've actually experienced. And we get to come to the place of the core. And what we tend to find is that this core piece for us all is very similar. We are one in the same.
Mm.
And when we're in resonance with somebody that has moved through experience as us, it's so beautiful to find that these cores or these anchors of our trauma, where the darkest dark and the lightest light form, is the place of rebirth, of transformation. And when
Mm.
we are in witness of other women speaking their truth of these things, one, we feel like we're not alone. We know we're not alone. We can feel that, right? We can fully feel that within ourselves. And they start to open, and we don't know why, but we're seeing ourselves in someone else. And that's becoming the permission for our body to shift and move and to open and to invite us to clear these things.
Mm.
And it means we've got to go into the underground and the gunk and to really meet ourselves there in love, in
Yeah.
compassion, in really being able to see ourselves in that. So that when we come in contact with other women, other men that have walked similar paths than us, we get to fully see them. We get
Mm.
to fully see them on a soul level, like that phrase, I see you, sister. It's like, it's kind of like thrown around, yeah? And it's beautiful that it's in our vocab, but what does that really mean?
Mm.
How do we really get to see each other in deep vulnerability?
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think that's a really strong sisterhood thread, and we could go on a completely different tangent there, but just
Yeah.
in knowing that that's why
Well,
we're here.
you're bringing through a lot of truth juice, babe. So I need to tag you right now. But while you're on that piece with, the sisterhood of like, I see you and, that being really fluffy, hang on, just give me a minute. I'm going to actually just tag you real quick so that um, this is seen with more people. Truth juice is what I'm tagging this as.
Nice.
And I'm going to put your name here. so that this pops up on your page. There we go. Cool. Perfect. All right. Yeah, when you were sharing about like I see you and these phrases that get thrown around, and then we're like talking about sacred sexuality, I know like for me, I've the kind of depth in sisterhood that I really yearn for, 1111, is I do love to get naked and raw, and I do love to, and it's like stripping off the layers. And it's not like every sister you go to that place with. It's not like every woman that you meet you feel like, oh yeah, I want to go that deep with her, but it's like a feeling you get. And I felt like when I met you at the womb space, I was like, we are going to be going deeper together. It was just a feeling I felt. And I know in the Awakened Woman in Pleasure with Purpose, there was a moment when I really felt like we were mirroring each other, where I was like really in my body and I was like dancing around. And then I glanced at you and I felt like there was just this moment where we were in temple. Like we had transported to a temple, it felt like for me. And I was like, this is the kind of depth that I desire, because I do feel like we can be met with the dark feminine, and we can be met with our own dark masculine, and we can be met with the light can really come through from that place. And even when you were voice noting me this morning and you were like doing your your thing, and you were sharing your thing, there was a part of me that wanted to be like, oh, you sexy thing. And I remember I said that, I was like, oh, you're sexy. There's a part of me that like wants to say that sometimes to sisters, but then I'm like, oh, is that inappropriate? Oh, should I not do that? And it's really
all the conditioning.
yeah, because there's some women that if they're really going through sexual trauma, they could look at that as, oh, she's projecting onto me. And I feel like we can say this about men, right? And I know the feeling. We all know the feeling when we're sexually projected onto. But I sometimes feel like, well, what if me? Like, what if I'm doing that? I know that I've done that to men. I know that I've done this to women. I know I've walked around and sexually projected. And so I'm constantly tuning in with my own darkness and, saying it when it feels like it's coming from love. Say that thing. Like this morning, it was like an innocence. It was like, oh, you sexy poet, you. Like it was very innocent, because I felt like I could go there and say that with you because of where we've journeyed.
I love that. And how beautiful does our free expression get to be when we allow ourselves to go that deep? And then the tongues of truth that come through, just how clear they get to be. And when you were saying to me that this morning about, oh my gosh, the words that flow through you, it's like when we allow the ultimate truth, it just unfolds. There's no thinking about how am I going to articulate myself in this moment to make sure that the person receiving this doesn't shut down, doesn't withdraw from my truth being my own. Nothing to do with the person who's receiving it, but how can we come into that space that it is so fluid? And we're not concerned and in fear of how that truth might land.
Yeah. And we are in like really sensitive times right now where it's like, oh my gosh, like you've got to be so fucking careful what you say, right? Because it could be like, oh, you're racist, or you're, I don't know, whatever the thing is. Like, and yes, there's parts of us that need to look at our shadows, obviously. But then it's like, I feel like we're in a world right now where people are so fucking afraid to speak up because they're scared they're going to ruffle feathers. They're scared they're going to be politically incorrect. They're scared that they're going to trigger someone's wound. And I feel like when we're in this realm of, doing trauma work and doing sacred sexuality, like it's not like a light space to be in. It's the darkest space to be in. But like you were saying at the start, in order for us to find our light and meet our soul and meet all the ugliest parts of ourselves and meet the most beautiful, pleasurable parts of ourselves too, it does, I believe it means really going there.
Yeah.
Like really going there.
Yeah.
With women that, it's like a feeling you feel in your body, right? Like when you say, I see you, it's like, oh, I see you, I feel you. And you know that there's more. It's like this hunger where you know there's more to journey. Right? Like just like we both got with, just coming out of a year together, like it was just a knowance that was meant to be. That was a part of our timeline, and just how different both of our realities are because we both got out of our own way.
Yeah, babe.
Take a moment to breathe.
Mm. There's
Mm.
so much bubbling.
What's bubbling at your base?
That safety and expression,
Mm.
cultivation of safety in self and within sisterhood, and how potent that has been. Mm. Being surrounded by women that are open to be our permission and just so fucking willing to hold the space for the truth, because they're so self-responsible that they're not going to make it about them. They're going to actually see you for what you're feeling and what you're in and the truth that's transpiring.
Yeah.
And there's so much more of that happening. I feel really called to go into the blood stuff, babe, and just what's
Oh
what's
yeah.
brewing, what's
Please.
brewing.
I'm just gonna let little Phoebe out because she's scratching at the door.
Oh, bless her.
How's you go, little puppy?
She's like, this is about to get hot.
Yeah. Like, Mama, this is too hot for me to handle. I gotta go out now. Yeah. So, please feel free to speak into what's bubbling, what's boiling, in your base, because that's your truth and that's your medicine. And this is space to really, yeah, to go there for all the women today. So please share the blood. We want the blood.
Blood. So I feel really like reflective in this piece. This time last year, really coming into the space of certainty and clarity and confidence, sharing this blood work, sharing blood rituals, sharing the witchy woo, and feeling the discomfort in that, but knowing just how important that this work is, and the taboos and the stigma and the conditioning that it literally dissolves in front of our eyes almost instantly. And this time last year, when this work was coming through, and I was really anchoring it in, the resistance that I found was within the feminine. And I had lots of projection from other women. And it's clear of the pain and suffering that woman was enduring at that time. We were like on that precipice of like another wave of awakening for women. And we know that when the light shines so bright, the fear also rises. It's like this contending energy, the duality. And it took time to be able to really stand in that without the fear, and working through the witch woundings, and at the same time working through the sisterhood woundings, because of the women that turned on each other in those times to keep themselves safe. And the lifetimes that I remember, and being able to clear that through the sisterhood was huge. Oh, to be in space with women, like naked and raw, to have no illusions of separation, for the life force and the blood that flows through us to be of us and for us. And it got to be this beautiful journey that I can see in all the women that surround us, right? They're so embodied in their cycles. They're running their businesses through their inner seasons. They're retreating when they need it. They're letting go of the martyr. They're dismantling so many illusions around women for themselves, which is beautiful. And exactly like I was like, yes, we're doing the thing. This is what it's all about. And then, we spent probably the last of last year, like all really integrating and showing up in that, and the resonance of that really being felt. So then I dive down and I go back into the underground. And as I started re-emerging, it was like the call back to the blood work. Like, it's the essence and the root, right? It's physically within us. And when we can work with this, what we can shift is pure magic. So I felt that call in the underground, like it's time to be seen in this again. You fucking love this, like shine your light, sister. I was like, yes, let's go. And I've got the women. The women are here. They're in resonance with it. It's being felt.
Mm.
And then I started to notice the, and I'm going to use this word, toxic,
Mm.
the toxic masculine
Mm.
starting to come through. The first live I went on and did, I had 6 men instantly to my live.
Mm.
And I felt it. I felt my soul retreat.
Mm.
My voice changed. It was like my inner child was like, I'm here. And I was like, whoa, what's going on, girlfriend?
Mm.
Ironically, my beloved called during my live and I'd forgot to do the do not disturb thing. So I'm like, yo, I'm coming back, and jumped back in, and I had one of my light sisters appear instantly.
Mm.
I felt the light surround me and my soul opened up and I just poured.
Mm.
The masculine returned and I felt it, but I felt the protection and the light. And I know that it's there, and I'm not going to diminish that it's not. And I'm not going to pretend like I don't feel it.
Mm.
And it's got to stop.
Mm.
And this piece that I feel self-responsible for as a woman, in how I can collectively impact or affect that toxic energy of the masculine that has stemmed through our history, is to see where within myself I'm doing that, where I am actually blaming the masculine, where I'm not seeing him in the light of the pain and suffering that he is experiencing. And for those of you that aren't really deep in this work, when I speak into the masculine, I don't physically mean man, the men in this world.
Mm.
We have that within us, the masculine and the feminine. And for us to fully, wholly reclaim ourselves, it requires us to own all parts of ourselves, the dark and the light. And for me, that dark masculine is really alive.
Mm.
And like how can I hold that energy of the healthy masculine in balance with my healthy feminine and model that for my kids?
Mm.
You know, how can I not be reactive in this space? This is what I keep asking myself. How can I not be reactive in this space? How can I keep my heart open? Because that's what reactivity feels like for me. My heart just wants to close. When I'm reacting, when I'm feeling attacked, you know, my heart's just like, oh. And I'm like, nah. I'm staying open. I'm so willing to unlock these places and spaces within myself so it's not showing up in my field and when I'm sharing my work, because I know it's within me. It's a reflection of what is still unhealed within me. And I'm so willing to face that, because that means that our divine masculine gets to continue to rise to meet us where we are, because they have a whole reclamation of their own happening right now, so that we as humanity get to come back to unity.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to honor you for, you know, how deep you do go. And it's just so gorgeous the way that, oh, like when I witness you when we're in circle and when you speak, I'm like, this woman would do this if she didn't get paid. Like legit. And I know we're here for the money. You know, we have our epic chats about money and we're like, yo, we're attracting all the, you know, monies to build what we're building. And Erin's also just built a retreat, FYI. Like she's here doing big shit, you guys. And I cannot wait to facilitate there. But when I receive you in lifetime, honestly, I'm like, you're so here for the people. Like you're so here for people to feel full. And I really feel that from you when you speak and when you share, and and I'll glance over and just you witnessing someone else. And this is a part of me. I'm such an observer, and it's a part of my nature, I feel, with being such a highly sensitive and growing up in nature, I've always lived, next to a bushland or, away. I've had neighbors around me. However, it's always been far away and it's always been, in nature. So my best friends became, obviously I had friends, but like a lot of my friends that I loved being around were animals and the earth and the water. And so there's an observation that comes with that when we're working with nature as a child and as an adult, where we learn to observe and we kind of learn what's safe and what's not safe, right? Okay, there's a creature there that doesn't feel so great. It might sting me or whatever. So I feel like for me as an adult, I'm such an observer, and as I observe you, I'm like, this woman, like she's just going for it, and it feels so juicy, and it feels so good. Like when I speak to you, I'm like, I feel it in my body. I'm like, ooh, like you make little noises. I'm like, ooh, I just got like a ooh of that, and it's a bodily felt experience with you, and it shows like your devotion to the work. And I love the blood work, I love the womb work, and we both love this work, and I feel that it is still needed, and the witch trials are still going on. Like I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it always happens, when we're about to share these truths and share wisdom, all of a sudden we find things. And when we're living an intentional life and we're praying to God, show me the way, show me the pieces. I was listening to a podcast, and these witch trials still are going on in this life. Women are still getting killed in parts of the world for speaking up, for showing their hair, for wearing makeup. Women are still having their genitals mutilated, and men, women and men. And this is not okay, in my opinion. This doesn't sit well with me. And for me, it's like continuously coming back to the altar of my body and choosing sacred sexuality for me is really like it's a prayer. And this morning I felt like last night I hardly slept because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to come live and share what's here. And I'm like, right, okay, we haven't slept most of the night, so let's do something this morning to really drop into the body. And as I was, getting into my practice, it was just really gentle movements around my whole body. I actually massaged, I feel like the back of my arm for like a half an hour on itself, because there was so much tension in my body that I was holding for the things that I'm not okay with that are happening in the world. But in order for me to be the leader I'm here to be and to guide the way, it's coming back to the body and releasing those tensions, releasing those tightness, and putting these prayers into my body that I'm here to embody the way for women, the way for women forward, to be the voice for the women who are getting killed for speaking up. And I've been looking into the history of empresses that were beautiful, powerful women that use their power for their people. They really were these women of power, but they really truly cared for their people. They wanted good for their people. And yeah, the masculine had different intentions back then. And in order for that to be happening in that dynamic, when these women were speaking up, there was queen that had her head removed. And this has happened, and I believe, just like the witch trials, we still hold this trauma and this wound inside of us as women. And I know before I launched my podcast, The Golden Temple, I was initiated so deep into the pits of hell. And I chose to face off and feel times in this life where I have had, have been strangled, and I have had people, just hating the way that I am and being triggered by my truth and being triggered by my expression. And it's happened for me. This is my teaching, and this is my wisdom, and this has brought me to this world. However, it's like now, it's like really standing in this queen energy. It's like, I will not let people taint my energy and come in and project onto, even if it wants to come in, it's like, I'm not available for this. I'm not energetically available for this. And I was saying to Erin, I've had people messaging me saying, oh, the golden age isn't to make money. All these projections. And I'm like, bull fucking shit. In order for us to keep building the golden age and to bring this into the tangible and to normalize doing the inner work, for this to be a normal conversation at the family dinner table, like for this to be a normal thing, it's continuously leaning into this, and it's continuously, following those edges and following those points and those things in our body that feel tight and tense, but leaning into them over and over and over again. But yeah, coming back to the blood piece as well, like I love receiving you and your blood magic, because I know for me, a lot of my healing with, you know, pains in my womb and repression with the feminine and me being in my expression, you know, it was like coming back to my sacred blood and my holiness of, you know, doing it all over my body and having my blood rituals, which has been really empowering for me. And
Mm.
it's really a self-love ritual. I feel like we can't have self-love without the blood work, without the sacred sexuality. And I feel like when Erin and I feel this fluffiness of like self-love and spirituality, it's like it's spirituality and self-love ain't love and light. Like it's actually, let me go down deep, let me face off with the parts of me that still wants to rape and pillage. Okay, let's face off with the parts of me that has the patriarchy inside of me from my granddaddy and my great granddaddy and so on and so forth. And something for me after facilitating ancestral alchemy that happened, and you know, going over and spending time with my nana and looking into my feminine bloodline and my masculine bloodline and sitting down and my nana just literally pouring her heart out to me. And I'm so grateful. I'm honestly so grateful for that time spent there, which was 2 weeks, because she opened up to me about so much in the family. And it just, it was so beautiful to feel her heart and for her to feel safe to share with me her pieces. And it was just such a beautiful moment to have. And, you know, it's not there to go and dig up things with our family and, you know, dig things up, but it's if it comes up and, you know, we do have a family member available to meet us in love and have a conversation, it could actually open up more of our expression. And I've noticed for me, since my whole life crumbling and rebuilding and following my aliveness and just literally feeling the nudge and the pull and going to all these places and spaces, having conversations, saying no to things. Like literally on the weekend, I had all these plans to go away, and you know, something didn't feel right in my body to go through with it. I just felt this feeling wash over me of this isn't right. And I remember saying, no, actually, no, this doesn't feel right. And God knocked me to my absolute fucking knees. Like absolutely knocked me to my knees. And I've been feeling my emotions, but I've been saying in my self pleasure practices, God, I want to feel more of you. I want to feel more of Eternal Empress. I want to feel more of the energy and the aliveness and this year and the vision and my life. And this was the moment where she knocked me and knocked the life out of me, it felt. And I just on all fours, you know, snot, the typical just despair, the grossness, the yuck. And in this moment, my father, actually my biological father, which has been a huge teacher for me in my life, knocked at the door and said to me, free hugs available. And I was like, I feel okay. I feel that there's a bit of an edge there, but I opened the door in my grossness because normally I do this alone, and I've realized a part of me that's been isolating and has been feeling my grief alone. And I'm all about breaking down from codependencies, but I've gone the other way and I've gone overly independent, and I've been unconsciously, oh, I've got to feel all this alone. And in this moment, I had an opportunity. And so I lent into it. It was the most edgiest opportunity, you know, edgiest. And I was like, okay. And I came out, then I just rested on him. I was like, ah! Like just disgusting on his shoulder. And it was so beautiful. Honestly, it was so beautiful. And I felt his heart. I hadn't felt his heart like that in so long. And I felt my heart. And I was like, fuck, this is just so beautiful. And it was a while. I was just standing there, you know, just sobbing and crying. And I was like, I'm just confused. That's all I said. Nothing else needed to be said. He didn't need to say anything. He didn't say anything. And hey,
He felt your open heart, and his heart couldn't do anything but open in that moment, right?
yeah. And it's really interesting because he's been saying, when I say, oh, yeah, you know, he goes to give me a hug sometimes. He's been going over to the left side. I'm like, no, come to the right side. So it's like a heart to hug hug. Because that's something I'm really intentional about, is like when I'm going to hug someone, I want it to be like a heart to heart. So I'm like leaning into the right side. I want to really embrace the person and feel that heart to heart connection. Otherwise, I'm like, well, what's the point if we're just going in for like a half hug, right? And for so many years, I was a half hugger. I was like, tap, tap. um, and been saying a lot lately, like, oh, my heart, what heart? I can't feel my heart. It's black, it's dark, and like all this sort of stuff. And I honestly feel like in that moment, it was really beautiful for the two of us to just, our journey's been really deep because we're both activators. We both speak our truth. We both, we say how we feel. We don't hold back, and yeah, for us to meet in the softness in that, it just really softened me. I feel like I've been so hard lately on myself and so hard on, all right, this is the vision, the toxic masculine in myself that comes through sometimes. And this just softened me so deeply. And I was like, thank you, God. Like, thank you. And just to spend the whole weekend fasting as well, because I've been feeling these little taps like, yo, you need to fast. It's been a while, like, we know you love eating and, we love food over here, y'all, but fasting is, for me, it's to feel God. It's to feel this unconditional love. It's to delete all programs. And so on the weekend with this moment happening, I was able to choose that. And I didn't want to fast. I was like, fuck, man, like, I want to eat food. I want to make curry and I want to... But I did. I fasted for the 3 days, and honestly, it literally felt like old programs in my psyche were just getting given back to the earth. It felt like just this old stories. I don't even want to say traumas because I've processed a lot of emotion with my feminine masculine bloodline. I know this work never ends. But then we go out, right? We go out, we create, and we do epic shit, and then we sort of come back to the altar. But I just felt like these old stories of like, you don't need to hold these stories anymore. Yes, that there's things that have happened, but it's in the past now. And because of this, it's like the hard drives that we have, right? Like I was literally cleaning out my hard drive because my freaking computer was full and my phone was full, and it was like source reflecting to me, yo, you're full. Like, we got to clean you out. And I feel like when we even look at the Empress energy and the Queen energy, in order for us to embrace our Queen, if you look at Queens, they do have a respect to their father. There is like a respect. And I feel like for me, there probably was a bit of a losing in that with my upbringing, where there was a bit of a disrespect on my end. And so it's been taking self-responsibility, but actually embodying that and knowing what I'm taking self-responsibility for. It's like, oh, okay, there's a part of my shadow where I've taken on from the feminine of that like disrespect. And now it's like this morning I was like saying prayers in my cacao, and I was like, man, I'm so grateful for my dad for being the provider that he's been, for the protector role that he's played. Like, yo, like because of him, I've been able to do what I've been able to do growing up. Like, yes, there was wounds there and there's been other things, but he played that role of the provider and the protector. And for that, I'm grateful. There's just this new level of gratitude coming through me right now. And within that, there's been a deep healing with my own masculine that's just literally unfolded over the past 2 days.
I was literally getting that sense, and I was like, there's obviously something shifting in the unseen for that to be showing up in that way. And I just, I just want to acknowledge the reflections that you speak of about me are also within you. Like for me, last year was all about calling in the women that were willing to meet me at the level of devotion, at the level of authenticity. I wanted to be face to face with these women. And you're it, babe. Like the women that are in my world are the reflection of this. They're so fucking self-responsible and willing to take ownership sometimes of stuff that's not even ours because of our willingness to go there, to allow ourselves to be in those depths, like the things that I've chosen to move through for my children so they don't have to. And that you are, and so deeply doing because of your craving to be a mama and to bring new life into this world, and knowing that you're doing it from this beautiful space of selflessness and purity, like the vessels, the beings that get to be birthed into this world when we choose self-responsibility.
Yeah.
And we are the change makers. We are the generation that are choosing it, fully choosing it. We can clearly see what has not been in service of the highest good of humanity. If those of, I'm not even going to go there. But anyway, and we can clearly see that there is an alternate reality that a lot of us are living in and
Mm,
breathing in every single day.
mm,
And it feels really fucking hard sometimes.
mm,
Like, did I really choose this? All of
oh
this?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you spoke into before, if we need to be willing to go this deep, if we're willing to feel the higher vibrational frequencies,
Yeah.
we don't get to bliss by not feeling our despair. We don't get to our desires by not feeling our sacred rage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, I just want to honor you and reflect back to you the beauty that I see in you in showing up in this energy and this life in the way that you do.
Oh, thank you. It's been so edgy.
Mm.
Like, oh, this has been the most uncomfortable part of my journey, I feel, but it's been the most fucking opening. Like what exactly what you're saying. It's like this shedding and this collapsing and this life that I thought was so planned out, mapped out so perfectly, crumbling. And yeah, the process and the journey of that, I was reflecting this morning with my body because after my self pleasure practice, I just started bawling my eyes out and I was sharing my prayers. And one of them was, I'm so grateful for this sisterhood. I am so grateful for that ancestral alchemy event. Like the way it all landed at the time, I was like, this is all happening at once. And it was perfect because even though I was, facilitating the group and you were there and we were doing the thing, it was like, I still felt that support. I wasn't doing it alone. And that's what I've been desiring to create in these creations is we're so done doing it alone and we're so done trying to look like we've got it all together. And because we are the generation that's not just breaking the chain like in this fluffy way of saying it, we're like, yo, we have to go deep. And in order for that, it's going to be fucking messy. There's going to be times in our business where we might have to reschedule a call or we're moving house or we're leaving a relationship and there's a breakdown. That there needs to be that, I feel like, that compassion in this industry right around that, and I feel like we really are doing that. I know you're so beautiful at doing that. You're really great at honoring yourself in that way. Like if you're feeling like you're in it, I remember there was a day you voice noted me and you expressed that truth, and I was like, I really honor that because you weren't trying to show up and like be doing this thing. I'm like, well, we can bring that softness if you want. We can bring that to the space if you want. And you're like, oh, that sounds really lovely. And
Mm.
it's like, this is what coaching gets to be. It's not like every time we're doing these fucking strategic plans and it's like, it's actually breaking down the goal orientation, I feel. And for someone that's a Capricorn, that's like my thing, right? It's like goals and ambition and all this. But actually what I'm discovering more and more with my genius is the more I actually just fuck the goals off and make ourselves the priority and make our self-love and being willing to go so deep in our life first and nourishing and feeding our soul and our body, like with the blood work that you're doing and the sacred sexuality and the heart and bringing it right up to the heart and turning the throat all the way on and allowing the vision to come through crystalline clear. I feel like this is the thing.
Mm. Mm.
And we can't do it alone, right? And you have your own unique spin, and I really felt that. Like I've been saying that a lot of 2022. It's like I have my unique way, you have your unique way, every other sister has a unique way. And like when we join those forces together, it's like we really are co-creating this world, this golden age, this golden temple. For me, it's like I'm all about creating that golden temple no matter where we are, right? It's like an energy we just tap into where it's like golden temple activate. And no matter what shitstorm we're in, it's like I'm in my temple and I'm here and I'm embodied and I'm going to stay in my body to experience this. I'm going to regulate my nervous system and we're going to stay in this anchored and receive what's here for us.
Mm.
To be creating this tangibly, I feel, right? Like in our families and our communities. And
Mm.
it's not like some weird thing we're doing up in the shamanics. We're actually doing it to receive it in real time.
Mm.
It's that balance of the inner and the outer world, the inner, the shamanics, and the taking action. And I feel it's alive and taking action on that, right?
Mm.
To
Mm.
experience it.
Mm.
But not
And
from
I've,
a place of like lack, from a place of like knowance
yeah,
in the
yeah,
full body.
yeah. well, that's how we fully shift. Like it needs to be in a holistic way to meet all parts of ourselves in all time and space. Mm. And for it to arrive here,
Yeah.
like you're saying, tangibly.
Yeah.
Mm.
And can you talk about your retreat center? Because I love how humble you are about it. Like you're such a badass. You're like, yeah, I'm doing this womb stuff and I'm doing this blood magic, low key, fucking building a retreat center behind scenes. Like what? You know, this woman, she traveled, and I remember we got on our call, we got on the sales call, connection call, whatever you want to call it, and you're like, yep, where I'm in, and you know, you're saying you're doing the retreat, and you've been doing all of it. Like when I say you get to have it all, you've got the man, you got the biz, you got the babes, you got the land, you got the retreat. Like it's all happening for you, and it's incredible. Like how has that been looking for you? And you know, like what's there for that? Whatever you want to talk about with that journey.
Thank you for speaking into the humble. I've really reflected over the last couple of weeks of being in other people's spaces and like going with my women that I mentor and you know supporting their facilitation and seeing the places and spaces that they're going, and I'm like, you know, looking at these people who've created these retreat spaces, and I'm like, wow, you're amazing. And then I'm like, oh, I'm doing that thing. I'm not really, it feels like this really weird space at the moment where it's obviously physically here, like I can almost see it from my bedroom room. I can almost see it. She's down in the forest.
So
Um,
good.
and it was a beautiful dream. So my beloved has always had a desire to hand build a cabin, a home. He is a builder by trade, and the original dream was, you know, like a log cabin in the Canadian, you know, wilderness where it snows. You know, he's such a ski bum, loves it, loves it. And yeah, met me, and just as the divine masculine does, just continues to support the feminine in her flow. And we both desired to remove ourselves from the systems and the structures that don't serve us. And, you know, being able to have 10 acres in the middle of nowhere. My nervous system feels it every single morning when I take my kids to school, the difference between the out and here on the land.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it was about prioritizing my health,
Mm.
what I needed as a soul, as a sensitive. And for me to continue to do this work in the capacity that I do it, I need a lot of space. So the dream came alive, and we spent 18 months looking for this property, and we had all the visions, and it was probably about 6 weeks before we found her that we completely let everything go. It was when the market was mad, people were paying hundreds and thousands of dollars more than was required, it was cutthroat, it was gross, it was horrible, and I was like, I'm done. I surrender to what is physically here, and if we have to do it in a 4,000 square meter block on 1 acre, I'm willing to do it. Like, yeah. And God was like, no, no, my love. You are deserving of the space that you require to anchor this. So here we are, nearly fully complete, nearly 12 months later. And this journey over the last 12 months has really shown me the deep level intention weaved within her, because the women that I've mentored that are now standing in their light and in their genius and shining really fucking bright have a space, a sovereign space. They get to come and facilitate and share what they're here to share, knowing that the energetics are aligned, that they don't have to dim any of their light, that they can fully allow in this space of love, creation, and sisterhood all of what's here.
I feel that when you say that, and it's rare to find that a space you can be all of you. And I love that, you know, you really are, you've literally built something in the tangible for, you know, your community, for your community and your ladies and the women that you're serving to then share their art, share their expression, share their offerings with the world. And this is really the sisterhood that I've been praying for, you know. And this is, I feel like you and I, like anyone who's tuning in live or you're watching the replay, we really are this is the example of what happens when you pray, like when you put your prayers out there, right? And I feel like when we live a very intentional life and we're super sensitive beings, and we're like, oh, okay, so when we're super sensitive, a lot doesn't actually work for us in the norm. Let's be real. Like, we're like, oh, there's a lot of bright lights here, that ain't gonna work for me. Like, I know that's a thing for me. I don't cope well in bright lights. No matter how much work I do on myself, no matter how much trauma work I've done, no, can't do the bright lights. Loud noises I'm getting better with, but I'm just super sensitive in that way, right? And so when we're in societies that the way that things have been built based on different intentions, we realize that exactly what you're saying, we need a space to be able to feel safe and feel creative and bring our art. And I love when you said that you realize I need a lot of space, yo. I was like, I feel that, you know, like being boxed in, it's like not a vibe. But having a space to fully do that. And I love how you've had this vision of doing it in Canada and having this beautiful getaway, yet you've really brought it to the community. It's like something it's almost like I feel with you're receiving it from the sisterhood as well. Like it's like you receive when you see them in their genius and their magic. And I really feel that with you when we've been in facilitation. Like I feel that vibe. And this is a vibe that it's unspoken. It's what we feel as highly sensitives. It's the undercurrent. And when we are doing this very intentional work with the blood and with when you posted your blood picture, I was like, yum, I want to eat it. Because that was that was something I did. I ate my blood like a while back when I was really repressed. I did that, and my body was like, we're gonna eat y'all, we're gonna eat you, and that was a way to connect to myself. I'm not saying that's me for all of you, but this is one of my weird, wacky, wild things that I've done as a primal animal and human that I am. I see myself as an animal and a human. I feel like I'm both. And, you know, these things that we're doing and what you're doing, it's really bringing that depth into the space.
You've got to get in the body, babe. You like
the body, yeah. That was my point. I've kind of lost my train of thought there. That kind of happens sometimes for me, but that was the point. And thank you for picking up on that. It's like when we get into the body, we can then feel that undercurrent of you're not saying the thing. It's almost like the projections we were talking about at the start of this live, where we're getting all these fucking projections. It's all just this. It's all talk. But when we just with the noise, we can feel the undercurrent of the truth
of ours and not everybody else's.
Yeah.
Because the conditioning runs so deep.
Yeah.
And the blood work, like it takes all of that surface conditioning so quickly to the core.
Yeah, I agree. I really do agree.
And then we get like the body and we shift it.
Yeah, and it's so it's quite ironic that you're really stepping back into this right now, because I watched a documentary. Dane Thomas posted he was watching What is a Woman? And I was like, oh, I'm going to watch that. So I watched that, and without getting too into detail, I just had this fucking fire inside of me where I was like, shit's got to change. And it's these confirmations in this moment when we feel so enraged that things are happening to certain people on the planet. And, you know, these are children that still I don't believe a child at 7 knows if they want to be a boy or a girl, and for them to go under the knife and, you know, have these sex changes to be the opposite sex and all these things. I really do. Like, if I'm going to be truthful, I believe all this fucking distortion, obviously it's greed, but obviously it's also, there's no celebration. Like the celebration's been lost of manhood and womanhood. It's been fucking lost in the West. And I know this from traveling. I've intentionally, you know, traveled out of my safety box of being in my comfort zone in my business. Where, you know, I was sharing with a lady the other day that when I had my cottage in the forest, I was so in my comfort zone. Like, you know, I booked flights to go to Peru, and I did something that was really edgy, like living off grid and being dirty in the soil and being bitten by gnats fucking through the night. It was fucking shit show, like legit, like shit show, because you're on ayahuasca and everyone's fucking shitting themselves, like, and it was so uncomfortable. But I was so deeply humbled. And I realized through all these journeys, I'm like, we've lost the celebration in the West of like a man becoming a man and a woman being celebrated for being a woman. And this will probably trigger some people, and it will, this conversation. But this is my truth. And like what you were saying before, we really all have our own truth. And when we get into the body, we can really discern that. But we need to get into the body, and
Yeah.
that's where it's been lost. But this documentary, What Is a Woman? It's a really great one for everyone, I believe, to watch, because it's just showing us essentially the distortion of the confusion that's happening. That's what I basically got from this documentary, is the distortion that's still happening with sexuality and with just the lack of connection to the body and the wounding generationally that hasn't been addressed, hasn't been felt, hasn't had a place to express.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the children, like my heart just feels for children. um yeah, and I just really want to honor you, because I can see we've only got like four more minutes left. I feel like I could just keep sitting here and chatting with you all day. But yeah, I really want to honor that, this work, I feel, with the womb work, the sacred sexuality, the bringing it up, it's it's bigger than just you said selflessness, right? It's bigger than like, oh yeah, I love myself, and like just staying in that energy. And I feel like I've seen that a lot in spaces where there's like this surface level self love where it's like, oh yeah, I'm a queen, like I'm gonna go buy myself all this stuff, and it's like superficial. Whereas when we go really deep into our body's wisdom and our body's abundance and our body's prosperity, and we do things for the body, we realize that it's so much more than this superficial level, that what we're doing is for humanity. It's like, oh, I've healed my shit, and while I'm healing my shit, I can be serving others. Like, you can have a breakdown, which I literally had a breakdown on Saturday, and then I can be here live bringing the juice. You don't have to wait till next year to be of service. And I really just want to preface that in this space, that you can be healing and serving and creating wealth while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I really want to be a part of this paradigm where women are wealthy and women are creating that wealth from their wisdoms, from their womb space, from having that clarity and the preciseness come through with their vision, and doing that whilst healing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I see it. I see it.
Yeah.
I am so excited for business mentorship this year. I open another one in March, and the women I came through from Liberated Lady last year, to see them still doing the fucking deep diving and
Mm,
still showing up in service and being humble and truthful amongst all of that. And I love that you spoke into that, because I waited. I waited a really long time to be healed before I allowed the work that I'm here to share to come through me and to be received.
yeah.
And I don't want any woman waiting, her soul dying and diminishing in the waiting.
Mm,
If we just keep following that energy, that joy, that call to the higher parts of ourselves and what insight that is available to us, we keep taking those steps in our own journey, we will enlighten and impact with ease without even knowing it sometimes.
mm-hmm. Feel that, sister. And something really simple came through for me the other day. It was like, you want to feel more alive? Do exactly that. Honor your aliveness. Like, just plain and simple. Like, we wake up our eros and we honor that in the moment. And that's how we feel more alive. And I feel like when we're doing the thing, we don't actually need to know where the money's coming from, what the steps are, what the hows are. But it's that coming back into always. And yeah, I just want to all the women that are here, that you've tuned in with us, I just want to like love on all of you for being here, and for tapping on the truth juice with Erin and I, because yeah, we've really been it was like last week that I voice noted you, and I was like, babe, I'm really getting this clear, we need to go live. And ever since I messaged you, I've been really like initiated deeper. And I feel like what happened for me on the weekend with having a breakdown and then having a fucking massive breakthrough and having a softness of my own masculine, and it's all this reminder that you don't wait for the perfect time. There will be no perfect time, otherwise you'll be waiting your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And this life is so very sacred,
Mm.
so sacred, truly. So Fun doing life together, babe.
Thank you, Mel. Thank
Sending
you for
our love.
creating the space and
Mm,
inviting me in and giving me full permission to speak to what's alive. I so
that's
appreciate
fine. All of you is always welcome. Yeah. Mwah. Bye.